A common question that keeps coming up for me is, how am I doing mix bus processing for mixing in Dolby Atmos? And I know I've talked about this in other videos a little bit, but today I'm really just going to focus in on this and hopefully just have a video to point people to really look at this. Before we dive in on this, just want to let you know, if you're new to the channel, there are affiliate links below. There are some Dolby Atmos mixing templates that I have available down there. And then if you need to get some help with a mix or looking to get your music mixed, you can always contact me at staglsound.com. I have been doing a lot of Atmos mix evaluations lately for people who are first getting started at it. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can contact me through there. But let's jump in and look at Atmos mix bus processing. I've got a little bit of a mix here. We're not going to listen to too much of this today, I don't think, but I'll put it in binaural. So grab some headphones because we're talking about Atmos. Might as well do the binaural. In my template, I have something that I call my mix bed, and it's not a bed, which I think this is confusing for people. It's a mix bus. It's a 916 multi-channel bus. So in a lot of ways, a lot of what I've been doing in Atmos has been more of a channel-based workflow, which sort of goes against a lot of the Atmos sort of things we can do. But to do this, this is what I have to do. So I've got this 916 mix bus, and you can see on my mix bus, I have two plugins on there. I have this Townhouse compressor, which is an SSL style compressor. I've been using this for, I don't know how many years now. I go through different phases of trying different things, but I've just kind of locked on this, and I think I just got tired of bouncing around to mix bus compressors. The other thing I have on here is an EQ, and it's deactivated. It's just there because sometimes I want to EQ things as I'm getting closer to the end. I don't feel like going in and finding something in an individual channel, and I will just do the whole mix. But that's it. I don't do a lot of crazy stuff on my mix bus because the guys who influenced me, they don't either. I can really kind of nail it down to maybe 5 or 6 engineers whose work I've really been influenced by the most and whose kind of approaches and workflows have influenced me the most. And, you know, if you've been on the channel before, you've probably heard me talk about some of these guys, but it would be Bob Clearmountain, Tom and Chris Lord-Alge, Andy Wallace, Mike Shipley, and Elliot Shiner. And if you look at those engineers and what they do with the mix bus, it's mainly just a compressor. Chris Lord-Alge, maybe a little bit of an exception because he's got a pair of Pultecs on his mix bus after the compressor. But I think I've heard him say in interviews that was really just to compensate for the sound of his console at the time. And he doesn't touch those. They're just there and always on. Elliot Shiner sometimes uses a GML EQ, I believe, after that. But, you know, for bus compression, he's said he's got a 33609 on his mix bus, but it's more just the sound of the unit that he likes. It doesn't really do anything. So mix bus processing for me, I haven't ever really jumped into some of the elaborate chains that I see some guys using today. And I think that has been to my benefit in working in Atmos. I mean, if you like doing a lot of processing, that's great. You know, if it's working for you, I mean, yeah, try it. See how it works. It might be amazing. For me, the thing that's tough, though, with doing bus processing this way is if I want to do a 916 or even just a 714, the number of plugins that are out there that will work on a bus with a channel width that size, there just aren't a lot of options out there yet. So everything I'm kind of doing on here, it's mostly multi-mono. So when I pull up this bus compressor, this is a multi-mono instance of this. This is not a 916 plugin. This isn't a 16-channel compressor, this is like 16 mono compressors basically on there, and the controls are linked. One of the things that has been really important for me, though, is I want this compressor to work on everything. I don't want, the left front to compress different from the left rear. Some of this is just a personal preference. I know engineers who like having the unlinked stereo bus compressors, and I could do that. If I just turn that key off right there, now I have it unlinked, everything's going to work the same. I like leaving this in, though, and I like having it do that. And part of that is just if I have to create stems. If people want stems from mixes that I'm doing, and it's something that I do offer to artists, I need a way to put the same processing on everything. And so I want this compressor to work in a predictable way every time I play back. It's just a personal preference for me. It's not right or wrong. It's just what I do. Now, to get this sidechain, though, this is where things get a little tricky and a little complicated working in Atmos. So just above this, you can see a couple of different channels. So first up, I have this mix bus stereo. This is an aux track. So I've got that input set at mix bus stereo. The output, though, goes to a mono bus, which is this bus comp key. Okay, so this aux send basically, let's just go to some guitar tracks. So all the guitars in this mix, and really everything in the mix, everything feeds into this mix bus stereo. You might remember some of this if you watched some of the Bob Clearmountain videos that I did about kind of his approach to Atmos and adapting that for working in Pro Tools. This is kind of out of that. So I've got that mix bus stereo bus. It's on every single audio track, and it's just basically a stereo version of it. So if I want the stereo version of the mix, I can create it this way. If I want to tweak the way that mix sounds, I can go in and adjust the sort of send levels if I want, although I never really do that because I'm not even using that for the stereo version anymore. So going back down to the mix bus, everything is kind of coming into this aux, and then it goes out to this bus comp key. Now that bus comp key is set right here in my compressor for the sidechain, and then I turn the key on. So if I play this back right now, here we go. If I turn this key off, right now we're looking at just the left channel of the bus, the compressor on the left channel. If I turn this off, we're probably not going to see as much compression, though, because I have the drums primarily in the center channel right now. So I turn that on and everything works. If you're looking at the gain reduction on this compressor, you can see I'm not really doing much to this. And that's just the way I've been doing stuff. I've been liking hitting the compressor a little lighter. I used to hit these harder, but with Atmos, I'm not doing it as much. As I was going through and editing the video, I feel like I need to add something in here. Bus compression in Dolby Atmos, it doesn't work quite the same as it does in stereo, or at least to me, like the things that I would use it for on a stereo mix, it doesn't do quite the same thing. One of the reasons a lot of us have enjoyed using bus compression on stereo mixes is that kind of glue effect, the sort of mysterious glue that we talk about. That doesn't work quite the same in Atmos, at least to my ears. Bus compression, it just doesn't do the same thing. The other thing that we need to be careful with when we're doing any kind of compression, limiting, that sort of thing, especially in Atmos, one of the downsides potentially when we do these things in stereo, where we're doing a lot of compression and limiting, is the image tends to fold in stereo. I think this is why widening plugins have become so popular over the last 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. It's because when we do a lot of this compression and limiting on the mix, the stereo, it just tends to kind of fold in and things get narrow. When we're working in Atmos, if we are doing a lot of compression on the bus, everything kind of starts to fold in a little bit. And that's sort of the opposite of what we typically want to happen when we're working in Atmos, because when we get this mix all around us and we're kind of immersed in it, if it folds in on itself, it just doesn't feel as immersive to me. So something to kind of think about and roll around in the back of your head on this, and you'll have to try things and discover things for yourself. When I turn off the compressor though, in fact here, let's just take this in and out so that you can hear what is it doing. I'll start with it on and then I'll turn it off. I don't think this is making a big difference. I do like the bottom end and kind of the kick drum. There's something that it's doing to that I prefer when I have this on right now. But I am not laying into this at all like I used to with some of the stereo stuff I would do, where you turn that off and the whole mix falls apart, which for me personally, I'm kind of glad, because part of me has really been wanting to stop using bus compression because I want to start doing more with objects, I think, especially between sort of the ear level layer and the height channels. I've been experimenting with putting things in between a little bit more, and sometimes I really like it. But if I want to do placement like that, I have to go to objects, and it's so much harder to do any of this kind of bus processing or processing everything. Let's not even call it bus processing anymore. Just how do you process everything together? Because there is no mix bus in Atmos. The renderer is the mix bus. Everything I do needs to happen upstream of that. And it's hard if you want, lots of objects and channels and all of that kind of stuff. Now, you might be wondering, what is this bus comp key track that is above my mix bus and underneath that mix bus stereo augs? This is a master fader. It's a Pro Tools master fader. And if you're not familiar with Pro Tools, I don't know how to describe what the master fader does, because it doesn't make sense to me sometimes. It's basically like having a trim for this bus. So they're so confusing. And I've been working in Pro Tools since the 90s. So it is what it is. I use this for a very specific purpose, though. If I want to vary the amount of compression that's happening, I will do it with this master. This is basically the equivalent of me adjusting the threshold within the compressor. It's just easier to do. I usually have this compressor, it's sitting on my monitor over there, and I can just look at it and see what it's doing. And if I start to feel like maybe I'm hitting it too hard, I can just flip over to a layout on my S1s and kind of pull that down. So let me demonstrate. So here, I'll open up that fader so you can see. So here's that fader. And I'll just push into it, and you'll hear what happens. in here on speakers, when I do this, it doesn't feel as good as it did. I liked it better when I had less compression going on the thing. But that's just me. In headphones, I don't know. I'll listen to the binaural later. You might be listening at home going, I like it better with more compression. So, it's a taste thing. You got to decide for yourself, what do you want to do? So this is how I do bus compression. If you're looking to do it, you can set this up. In terms of creating this mix bus in Pro Tools, I just used one of their track presets for 916. I mean, if you go new, where is it? Track presets, Avid, Dolby Atmos. Right here, you can just pick. I think I used this 916. That was how I created this. Once that was created, I renamed it to stuff that made sense and put the compressor on that. I mean, it's fairly simple in that regard, I think. But that's it. I'll just show you. Pro Q3, just to show you, it is a 916 plugin. I don't have anything going on it by default because it's just kind of a last touch thing. If I feel like I need to EQ the whole mix, I've got that there. And 9 out of 10 times between the two of those, I don't do much else. I mean, I have a mastering template sometimes that I will bring mixes into to master, but a lot of times I don't need to do anything with it beyond this. If I'm going into that, it's probably because there was something I missed. I need to do some limiting on things to get the spec right. But this is pretty much all I've been doing. Now, when it comes to the fold down and the stereo version of this, I definitely do some stuff because stereo mixes, I mean, they still need to be treated like stereo mixes, in my opinion, or at least in terms of what I am putting out there. I am still jacking up the loudness a little bit more than what Atmos allows for with its limits. But for the Atmos side of things, this is what I've been doing. So I hope that helps explain how I'm doing bus processing and Atmos. If you've got questions about any of this, please feel free to ask below. I'll try and answer questions the best I can. Have you been doing bus processing in Atmos? Let me know. What are you doing? What are you liking? Are there things that you found that worked really good in stereo that don't work in Atmos anymore? And are there things you were doing in stereo that still work in Atmos for you? Please let me know. And let me know too if you're working only on headphones or if you're working on speakers and headphones, because I'd love to know how all that stuff is working for you. So thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon.